efficiently,
Very good.
something like that.
Yeah.
And now I want to give a shout out to T from Tacoma, Washington, who was down here visiting Brian. And so T came down a couple of days ago. They did the whole touristy stuff, Alvera Street, Philippe's.
And so she got to see all the homeless and how wonderful California
I was
is.
going to say,
And
welcome to Los
so
Angeles.
So welcome T from Tacoma, Washington, and I get to meet her tomorrow, and that's kind of nice. We're going to have dinner at the Smokehouse, and so
okay, Jen, we know where to go to find out who T is.
So she actually has listened to the show from Tacoma, Washington.
That's great. So
And
nice that
so-
we have listeners up there.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So she's down here, and so it's there's so much going on.
There's so much going on, and right before we came on the air, I was going through Instagram and stuff, and I just said to David, I go, 7 minutes ago at that time before we came on the air, there was a tragedy down in Baja California. So there are a bunch of people that go down in their dune buggies and they go race in Baja California.
Yeah, like the Baja 500.
It's like it's one of those. I don't know exactly what it is, but apparently all the drivers, they were lined up. They were 90 miles south of the boulevard of the border. A bunch of gunmen got out of an SUV and unloaded on them. There are 10 dead drivers and 9 injured so far. I don't know what the rest of it is. If anyone else knows anything about it, let us know. But this is a tragedy.
This is horrific.
Yeah, so I just saw it. It was on actually Lexit Movement posted the video. So go to Lexit on Instagram. Holgren is a friend of ours.
Yeah, Jesse.
Jesse's a great friend of ours. So check that out. And
Speaking
let's
of
find
great friends, I mean, a warrior, a warrior in the battle. I mean, it's like, Shannon, it's like it never ends. And so I
have a question, though. You were on, I don't know, about 8 months ago. You said, I have something I want to tell you, and I'm going to break it on your radio show. Was this what you were talking about that you didn't want to tell us?
This is it, and actually, this is the first interview I'm doing for this. I am breaking it on your radio show.
So for our listeners, this is super exciting. You're hearing it first. We have Dr. Shannon Kroner in studio, and she's got an amazing announcement for all of us. Take it away.
Yeah, so I have been working for the last 10 months on a children's book, and it's called I'm Unvaccinated and That's Okay.
That is so cool.
And it was just published by Skyhorse Publishing with an imprint from ICANN, Informed Consent Action Network. And it is available right now on all major book-selling websites, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's even at Target, which is like really crazy to look my name up and see it on Target. But yeah, it's available for pre-sale, and the books will start shipping at the end of July.
Now, do you have books on hand?
I don't have any yet.
Because it's all on pre-order. I pre-ordered mine.
It's all on pre-order.
Well, no, David said,
wait.
did she bring in a book for us to autograph? I go, I have no idea, but we'll have to go
I'll
to
have
her
to come
book
back.
signing.
Yeah, have to come back.
When it goes out.
Now what is the age group for reading the book? Is it a children's book?
So it is a children's book, and it is illustrated. I found a really amazing illustrator in Costa Rica, and really the age range. I think they've placed it from like 5 to 12 or something like that. But it's really a book that's meant to be read with parent and child together to understand why a parent would make, certain choices regarding vaccination. And it is a book meant to educate children on the different ingredients. And the premise of the story is that there's a little boy, his name is Nicholas, and his older sibling is vaccine injured. And so he is unvaccinated. And so he kind of tells life from his perspective of being an unvaccinated child in today's world with so many pressures to get vaccinated.
Yeah, and that, and we see that it is so important to prepare the children and have that conversation with them and the parents, because once they go out at that door and they walk into that school and they start getting tempted with, come on, just get it.
Here's a piece of pizza.
Here's some
lollipop.
pizza. Look at all your other friends are doing it.
Of course, yes. In this post-COVID era,
you don't want to be an outcast. You don't want to have to go sit over there because, in the abundance of caution, we have to protect the children.
It's true, and even prior to COVID. My kids, they used to be in public school, and they would, around flu season, the teacher would ask, like when they're teaching a science lesson, how many in here have gotten the flu vaccine? And they would have a show of hands. And there is a lot of pressure. There's pressure from parents, pressure from friends, pressure from pediatricians. This is a book that parents can share with their doctors or with their family members who maybe didn't let them come to their Christmas dinners in the last couple of years, you know, because they weren't vaccinated. This is a book that will help others understand why people make certain choices that they do regarding vaccines. And it covers a lot in a very extremely easy way to understand.
Well, you know, and I think where that's really important, and you just mentioned it, because how do these kids process, you know, especially the young kids, how do they process not being able to go to the family gathering?
Right.
And it's like, okay, what's wrong with you, Mom? Why is it that you're keeping me from my cousins or all these other kids? You're doing this to me. And then we see, I mean, we had Dr. Sharon Kenny on, and the amount that the suicide is skyrocketing as young as 10 years old. And so it's like these kids are not equipped to deal with that pressure. And I think this is fantastic.
Well, you know, it also reminds me of when the height of when all this went on, when we first had you on, and we all ended up over at Dawn's sister-in-law's school, supporting them over the fact that their daughters weren't vaccinated, and the school wasn't allowing them to attend school, and I mean, it was just a nightmare.
And I actually talk about that. The book talks about how unvaccinated kids in certain states are not allowed to attend school.
Yeah. I mean, I just think what a great book.
Like
to have out.
California.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And Dr.
Granada
Shannon
Hills Charter.
Kroner, I want to ask you, I think that this sounds like this is the first book of its kind.
It is the first book of its kind. And, you know, I've been in this vaccine fight for a very long time. I've been working with kids with special needs since early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And I discovered vaccine injury from working with these kids as I was a behaviorist. I was also something called a floor time therapist, where I was working with the little kids who had autism and other kind of disabilities. And every time I would do an intake on a family, it felt like it was always the same thing. I would say, you know, when did you start to see your child develop some kind of, you know, disabilities or whatever the symptoms were that they were experiencing? And it was always the same answers, that my child was fine and healthy and had a, you know, the pregnancy went normal. And then after a round of vaccines, something happened. They lost their speech. They lost the ability to make eye contact, you know. And I was in my young 20s at that time, and I kept hearing it, and I wasn't a parent at the time. So it didn't mean so much to me at that time. Then when I became a parent, when I was pregnant with my first child, I actually was not forced, but I was really pressured to get the flu vaccine because it was during the swine flu.
When you were pregnant, you were pressured.
When I was pregnant, it was in 2009, and I was pressured to get both the swine flu vaccine and the flu shot. And I knew enough about vaccines to say no to the swine flu shot because I felt that it was too new. But then I agreed to the flu shot because it was preservative free. So I thought maybe it's a safer shot. There's not all the preservatives and toxins and stuff in it. I got the flu shot, and within 24, 48 hours, I ended up in the ER, and I almost lost my baby. And so I myself suffered a vaccine injury, a very serious one, to be exact. When I say I almost lost my baby, I will say I ended up profusely leaking amniotic fluid, and I went for so many different doctor opinions who told me to end the pregnancy because I had leaked so much amniotic fluid as a result of getting the flu shot. I didn't listen to any of the doctors.
Thank
I did
goodness.
my own research, and you know, today my son is 13 and happy and healthy, but
and unvaccinated.
so, you know, I'm just saying, like, this is a book that every parent really needs to read, and it's really about the inclusivity, actually, and it's about not judging others. There's like a whole really, you know, I kind of told the story of so many people that I know. And I see what happens all the time about how, you know, unvaccinated kids are really kind of sidelined. They're, not allowed to not allowed to go to school.
Can't play sports.
Can't play certain sports. They can't go to camps and stuff like that.
There's even some parents that will not even allow them to come over and play with their kids.
That's exactly right. And I've heard those stories, and a lot of those stories are with families who their first child, they followed the vaccine schedule exactly as the doctors told them to, and they ended up having a seriously vaccine-injured child, so they made different decisions for their next child.
Or children.
And I'll tell you, ever since the book went out, ever since I made it public, which was a week ago today, I am getting so many emails and tweets and just messages from parents saying, that is my story.
How cool is that?
And I'll tell you this,
awesome.
I just did this on my phone while we're talking. Of course, listeners, again, the book is called I'm Unvaccinated and That's Okay by Dr. Shannon Kroner. And if you go to Amazon.com and you just type in I''M, boom, the first thing that populates is her book.
I'll tell you, within 24 hours of just announcing it on social media, it became number one under immunology. It became number one under parenting a child with special needs. And I haven't checked today, but yesterday it was number 8 on all new releases of children's books. Taylor Swift is in that number 1 spot, which I am coming for you, Taylor Swift.
This is such fantastic
And I'm okay
news.
with that.
This is, I'm telling you, the difference, wouldn't you say, from, say, 2015, 2016, when we saw SB 277?
I don't think you could have released this book a year ago, actually. No. I mean, I think that timing is always everything. And now you just you have so many parents that have made this choice. I don't think people really realize, and I don't know that a lot of people are honest about it because they just don't want to deal with the blowback from other parents.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy copies for every one of our elementary school nurses' offices.
Oh, there you go.
In our district.
And you're going to give them to everybody at Chatsworth High School.
Granada Hills Charter. We're going to fill that library. Charter. That's right.
Yeah, I'm getting those messages too of people saying that they're going to be buying the books and putting them in their school libraries and handing them out, putting them in the waiting room of their pediatrician's office.
Yes, and even though it's written for kids, it's a children's book. I bet you that you're going to be educating a lot of adults at the same time.
Definitely. And actually I've included a really great glossary that, has all these different terms, vaccine-related terms, in a very easy to understand way. I've also included a reference page of some of my favorite resources. And so there's some of my favorite books and websites and documentaries and on that resource page are, actually the CDC Pink Book. Most parents probably have no idea what the CDC Pink Book is. And that actually lists every single vaccine and all the details of the vaccines. I've also listed the CDC childhood schedule and government website.
And the CDC schedule for vaccine, isn't that something like 74 now?
No, it's almost 100 now because they added COVID last year.
Okay.
So they added the COVID vaccine to the childhood CDC recommended childhood vaccine schedule.
Recommended.
It's recommended, but every
Most
doctor.
states adopt them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I remember when this whole thing first started with SB 277. I mean,
well, in terms of the loss of our personal beliefs exemption.
Well, no,
right?
just in knowledge of vaccine, because I was vaccinated as a kid. Most kids my age, or most adults my age, were vaccinated. We had maybe 12 doses. And to find out that back then, and that was just a few years ago, it was 94, and it's wait a minute, most people have no idea, and that's why they're so from that position of lack of awareness, not being informed. Their first reaction is, oh, you're anti-vax.
Exactly.
Or you're anti-this. You're anti-science. You're a flat earther. You want to kill grandma. You want to do all these different things.
You flat earther, you.
When in fact, as Dr. Kroner says, you have these people who follow the advice of their trusted pediatrician. Their child is injured. They make a new decision for the next children. That's not an anti-vaxxer. That's an ex-vaxxer.
Yeah, well, because
that's an informed parent.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I mean, it's an informed parent.
And that's what this is actually about. It's about, getting the information in the easiest possible way that both parent and child can understand. and being informed, because right now there's no informed
Right.
Well,
consent.
here's the other thing, though, and I think this is a popularity that I think you're going to be surprised by. I think you're going to find a lot of expecting moms that are going to buy this book, and they're going to start making different informed decisions about whether or not they want to vaccinate or which ones they would like to vaccinate with. So I think you're going to find a whole nother audience that I don't know that you might have planned on that or been aware of it, but I think there's going to be a lot of brand new moms that are going to be reading I'm not vaccinated, and that's okay.
Well, and it's funny because I remember when the first time we went to Lancers or Langer's restaurant, or we tried to go there.
Oh, the deli?
When we weren't allowed in.
And
'Cause we weren't vaccinated.
And they had somebody at the door, and this is before it was mandated. And they go, "We need to see your paper. You need to see your vaccine verification." It's like, what?
Yeah.
Is this
I experienced
1933?
that.
Right.
Yeah.
And
My family and we had to drive to Ventura County just to go and like eat and do things
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
I mean, so it
Absolutely
has
ridiculous.
come so far, because I remember when I first met Robert Kennedy Jr. and it was at the Nation of Islam with Tony Muhammad of all people, and I heard Dr. Sears talk, and what he said was, you know what, you can be for safe automobiles, and that doesn't make you anti-automobile.
Right.
And so when he put it in that perspective, you can be for safe vaccines, and that doesn't make you anti-vax. And I see now that since Robert Kennedy Jr. is running for president, the first thing that the Democrats did was they labeled him as an anti-vaxxer.
Right.
And so it's something how because we've all been labeled and called names and all these different things, and yet to see it evolve into now, it's like, okay, we've followed the science, and it has led us to hear that there are a lot of kids, a lot of adults that are no longer with us because they've had reactions to an experimental vaccine.
I'll tell you, there was just recently a study that shows 1 in 22 kids being diagnosed with autism in California, specific to California, 1 in 22.
I saw that. You posted it on Facebook.
That number is just mind-blowing.
That's ridiculous.
Well, but
That's
what-
astonishing these days, because back in the
That's the
day,
pandemic.
That's
Yeah.
right. That is right, and it's the silent pandemic, because number one, I would still say there is this massive discrimination, even against the idea that vaccines are connected to autism.
Well, that I was just going to say, because if we go back, there was an actress, 10, 12 years ago, that was My Son Has Autism.
You mean
and-
Jenny McCarthy?
Yes.
That's right.
I couldn't remember her name.
Yes.
Jenny
But-
McCarthy,
yeah.
and who was her boyfriend? Jim Carrey.
Correct.
And they-
although that was
yeah.
not his son.
No, but they crucified her. It ended her career. I mean, you don't see her anymore. You
No,
don't-
I still see her. She's been on The Voice.
She's on
She's
The
still
Voice.
out there.
Oh,
she's
is
done-
she?
She
she's-
doesn't talk much about vaccines.
She was
anymore.
very brave to come out, and
100%.
she endured a lot of
She was
damage
crucified
and for that.
over
But
it.
Thank
And-
God for her.
But
for
you know what,
speaking
though?
up.
She spoke up, and I think that is, that's led us down this path, and now we have this great book. I can't wait to get it. I can't wait to read it. And I was so excited when you texted me and said, "Can I come on the radio?" I'm like, absolutely.
How long did it take for idea to finished product?
So that's actually really interesting, because I actually wrote this book. I wrote like the bones of this book years ago. I've been writing for so long, my whole life.
Well, you said I noticed that your bachelor's degree is in English Lit.
So my bachelor's is in English literature, my master's is in special education, and my doctorate's in psychology. So it's kind of all put
All
into this
together.
one book.
It's a Venn diagram
Yeah.
that has resulted in the book.
That's exactly right.
So how long did it take then?
So I had some of this book written years ago, and then last August I kind of was just searching through my computer and found it, and I was like, I need to do something with this now. So I really kind of started focusing on it last August, and I found this illustrator who knew nothing about vaccines. I interviewed several illustrators to say, is this a topic that's going to be controversial for you, or are you open to the idea? And I found an illustrator that he was amazing. He sent a sample, illustration, and I hired him, and it took off from there.
That's
Oh,
fantastic.
it's so exciting, and I love the cover of it.
Thank you so
I
much.
love the
Wait till you
cover.
see the inside. The inside is just...
And the release is when?
It will start shipping out at the end of July. I don't remember. I think it's maybe July 20th or something like that, July 18th. But you can order it today on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, And
wherever.
Target.
And Target.
Now, Shannon, if people want to, if they want to have a book signing, if they want to have you on The View, if they want to, how do people
I
get
don't know
into
about the
Oh,
view.
about the view.
How-
I think we should do a book signing at the office.
I would do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
How
definitely.
We'll do
can
your
people-
first book signing
Yeah.
too.
I'd totally do that.
How can people get in touch with you to have you come and speak? And
So just go to drshannonkroner.com.
how do you KRO?
It's DRSHANNONKRONER.com. And you can reach me there. I get the emails directly, and there's a place where if somebody wants to book me to do speaking engagements or book signings, things like that.
Fantastic.
This is so exciting. Pretty soon she's going to have an agent. We won't even be able to call her directly.
I will always call you. It's fine.
Thank goodness.
Thank you
All right,
guys
there's
so
the
much.
music.
That was our
Thank you
first
so
half
much.
hour.
All right.
So this is David and Jeffy on the Los Angeles Hispanic Republican Club on AM 870. The Answer, and we'll be right back.
And we're back. And
we are.
that was great.
Okay, so-
she's such a great lady.
She's awesome, and it's such a great segue to go from I'm not vaccinated and that's okay
To, I'm not gonna get vaccinated.
and I got fired. And we're going to talk to John Knoxx, a firefighter for freedom, a good friend of ours who's been around forever and a day.
Wow, now I feel old.
Oh no! Well, with the COVID, I mean, it's been 30 years. We interviewed you in our first studio.
Yeah.
Did you say 30 years, Jeffy?
I meant 3 years.
It's
I'm old now.
Yes,
It
it
feels
has-
like 30
guess
years.
what?
I'm
It
old
does,
now.
doesn't
I'm
it?
old now.
It has been way too long, frankly, that
Yeah.
we've been talking about this type of discrimination.
Yeah.
And so,
Is it discrimination?
Well, meaning, yeah, we know it's discrimination in terms of the. That's what I'm saying about
Yeah.
the COVID vax mandates.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%.
so it's been 3 years.
Uh-huh.
It's been a long 3 years for you.
Yes, it has. But that's all right. It's good.
Yeah, but so we've had you on quite a bit, so people know that you've been here. But let's give people a real quick catch up, because we do have a lot of new listeners that aren't familiar with you and your
Sure.
story.
Yeah.
And we have a gentleman who'll be calling in, and he's been kind of
Terminated.
yes. So
Another one.
yeah, so go on.
All
Start.
right. So my name's John Knoxx. 22 and a half year veteran of LA City Fire Department, firefighter paramedic. And when all this began, August of, what year was that?
Well,
Or
so
20
March
2021.
21.
March
Yeah.
21st.
Since we're talking about Matt,
Matt's
Yes.
here.
why don't we bring Matt on?
Absolutely.
And we are talking about Matt Mamone, LA City firefighter engineer who just had his Board of Rights hearing and was officially terminated just some days ago. Here we are.
Welcome,
in-
Matt.
Hi, Matt. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Good. So John was getting us started on your story about, and you're the second one? Yeah.
I am technically the third.
The third,
One was
okay.
Fired, and I'm the second. Second firefighter.
And so tell us about, so John, you started Firefighters for Freedom. You hired attorneys to start fighting for all of your firefighters, including Matt. So give our listeners a workup on that, so that people know how we got here. Because
Okay.
everyone else has lifted the mandates, but we still have these firefighters being terminated.
Yes, LA City has not. So, August of 2021, the city decided to implement a vaccinate or terminate. You shall be vaccinated
Okay.
mandate. They put into place. We felt that wasn't constitutionally appropriate, violated our constitutional laws. We went out and hired several attorneys. We filed lawsuits on constitutionality and science. That's bounced around in the courts. We just had a hearing in the appellate court on April 4th, and we're waiting for the final decision on that. They've got 90 days to go ahead and give that decision. So,
And what happens if they don't give that decision?
well, they'll give a decision.
I know, but I mean, if they make a decision, so
If they say yes,
Yes.
then it will move forward with a new judge and
Okay.
be heard. And if it's not, then we would appeal and take that to the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court of California, the Supreme Court of the United States.
California.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Matt, Can you give our listeners a little bit of a background? How long have you been with the fire department? Why did you get involved, and become a firefighter?
Sure. Yeah, I've been with the department. I just got technically terminated last week, so up at that point I was almost 15 years, 13 before I got put off duty. Joined the Los Angeles City Fire Department because I think it's the greatest fire department in the world and one of the greatest cities in the world. I joined up like most people do to help the constituents of Los Angeles and do better for the city and the people in it.
Now, what was your last place of duty? What station?
I was out at Fire Station 89. It's out in North Hollywood, out in the valley there. Very busy assignment. Lots of variety. Very diverse, challenging area.
Is that right there at Chandler and Tahunga?
I was going to say that's by David's house. So if you ever dialed 911, David, this might have been Matt that showed up.
Yeah, I've probably been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's Laurel Canyon and Sherman Way.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, and that's the big station. Yeah, the North Hollywood Northeast Neighborhood Council used to have their meetings there in that back room there in the back of the parking lot. And it's something because when you look at the past 14, 15 years, the different calls that you've been on, when you showed up and you've had to render aid and you have to do all this different stuff, you weren't, did you check people's vaccination record or to see if they had AIDS or if they had, any type
typhoid or any serious disease?
Any type, it was like you just showed up. And so how do you feel finding yourself in this position?
Yeah, we show up no matter what. That included throughout the pandemic. Like John did, we worked almost 2 years through the pandemic while most people, got to stay home and get a grasp on what was going on. We were business as usual. We had to work extra shifts to pick up the slack with the staffing shortages. And, yeah, no questions asked. You take the appropriate safety precautions and you just, you run a medical call is no different than a fire. You just run in there and have a mind for safety, and you get the job done.
Any ideas to, because of your responses where you showed up and the action that you took, how many lives you impacted or saved?
I mean, it's a hard number to
more than one.
We're going. Yeah, I would say so. We're going hundreds of calls every year, so just individually.
You think about it. The city of Los Angeles is over 4 million people, and we dispatch. Right now, we're running almost 2,000 calls a day on an average day, not
and that's if
high
you can
wind.
Get through on 911.
Yeah, that's a different story. But so you think about that. There's some departments that don't even do that in a year. We're doing that every day. So when you think about the amount of, we have 106 fire stations, the amount of lives that we touch every day when we go to work is
right.
And you guys,
staggering.
so just so people know, you guys have the A shift, B shift, C shift, correct?
Yes, correct.
Can't even speak English today. That's a lot of people in a firehouse rotating through because you guys are on 24-hour shifts.
Correct.
Okay, so you've got all that going on. How many, this is the magic question, of our stations are not housed with people in them because they're closed? You guys used to put it on your Instagram, firefighters, number 4 freedom, all the time. Now, I never see it.
Yeah, so we have staffing shortages, and so we don't have any stations that I know of right now that are closed. What they'll do is, because we have such a unique staffing system with task force, we have like an engine, a truck, and then a pump, or 2 engines and a truck in some stations. They're able to split those up, and so you'll have decreased services. But there are days where they'll close an engine completely and just leave an ambulance there, or they're juggling right now because we're very short-staffed, and we're literally right now in the next, I think, 2 years, we're about ready to lose another 400 people to retirement.
Right. Yeah. And now, how are
and that
they?
Doesn't include the number. How many are? So I'm sorry, David. I didn't interrupt. How many firefighters, paramedics, and the like are they looking to terminate, like you and Matt?
Well, currently at this time, I mean, originally when this all went down in December of 21, they put 160 of us off. Since that time, people have taken exemptions, gone back, so on and so forth. Right now, there was 12 of us in this position. Matt just got terminated. We have Timmy Hampson, who is a 40-year firefighter, who just completed his Board of Rights, and they were supposed to give their decision as to whether they were going to terminate him or not last Friday, and they postponed it the night before, said they needed more time to deliberate.
This is what we're seeing a lot. These border rights hearings, they go on for a couple of days, and then they take a break, and then they come back. There's an extensive delay.
But what I wanted to ask is a real question, is another question, because you mentioned something about exemptions. So I want to clarify, if you can, are the ones that accepted an exemption for religion, for medical, or et cetera, are they being terminated, or are the firefighters that chose to stay, I don't want to be vaccinated, that's my right as an American?
Yes. So the ones that took the exemption, they all got denied originally.
Okay.
I mean, even our head chaplain was denied. So he wasn't religious enough, according to the city of Los Angeles. I mean, whatever. So they filed appeals, and those sat on the chief's desk for a year. And then
We got a new chief.
Yes. And they still sat on her desk. Now, those got administratively blanket approved.
Along with the LAPD just recently,
Yes.
because of Mayor Bass. They just approved all of them
Right.
summarily. And so that meant everyone was sitting there with their exemption, like still working, but with this hanging over their head, right?
Right. So, I mean, they technically were denied an exemption, and they were still allowed to work. But then us that didn't file an exemption because
Right.
we have a constitutional right.
Right.
I mean, my rights, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, they're given to me at birth by God. The government does not give me my rights.
Oh, there you go with inalienable rights. What do you think this is? What do you think this is? America?
free country?
Come on.
Last time I checked.
Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead, Matt.
In addition to all our religious freedoms and constitutional rights and everything afforded to us, one thing John hasn't even brought up is our union, UFLAC, United 112, LA City Firefighters, has never agreed to this change of condition in employment. So we have labor laws, we have a contract with the city, and these types of changes to employment need to be bargained on, and the city never completed that bargaining process. So to apply for an exemption for a condition of employment that doesn't technically exist, we've argued is, there's no need to do that.
Now, Matt, did you lose? So you're terminated. What was the penalty on that? Did you lose your pension? What is the outcome of this termination?
Yeah, I lose my pension. You have to work 20 years and be 50 years old to collect a pension. So yeah, I will not be getting a pension from the department. It's basically just 15 years and done.
Wow, I'm so sorry that you're going through that.
Now, Matt, are you married? Do you have kids?
I am married, no kids at the moment.
And so now,
Well,
are you going to be able to apply to another department, or is this termination going to blackball you from being able to go to other departments?
That's a good question. It's all still pretty fresh. I haven't looked into it. I've certainly heard that many departments aren't looking at it as a blight on your record, but it'll just all depend. Haven't gotten that far yet.
At what point does it really become defamation, right? I mean, defamation of character, because, they're basically saying that you're a bad employee, you're not adhering to condition of employment, when that's all false.
Exactly.
It wasn't a condition of employment when you were first employed.
No.
And, Matt, like you brought up, when it came down to the exemptions, they're accepting an exemption that doesn't even exist under policy. And I actually, when this happened, John, you'll remember, you guys posted the number of the president of that union, and I called him, and he called me back. I had a conversation with him. And it was interesting because when I spoke to him, he made it sound like it was all roses and cherries, and he was all on your side. And I called up John, I go, yeah, this is what he said. He goes, yeah, he's lying.
Yeah. They want you to think that they're doing everything they can for us, and unfortunately, if that were the case, Firefighters for Freedom would have never
taken off.
come
Right.
into existence.
You wouldn't have needed that group
We
if
stepped-
the union had stood up for you.
Yeah, and that's a union's position. I mean, they say we're there to fight for you and we'll stand for you, but no, because you don't believe in what we're doing. I
Right.
mean, when you tell me just put in an exemption, yeah, I have God-given rights. I don't need an exemption for that. And what an exemption says is that I agree with
Right, yeah.
you telling me what to do with my body, and I'm asking you to opt out of your system this time.
For
asking
permission
for
to not
permission.
do that. Exactly.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And you don't control. And in the state of California, we have the strongest constitution out of all 50. And it gives us body autonomy, medical privacy. You don't need to know whether I'm vaccinated or not vaccinated. I mean, if I asked you if you had HIV or whatever, I can't do that.
Not even on the job or off the job.
Right. And
And I remember during the AIDS epidemic that there were so many policies put in place that you couldn't ask a dentist if the dentist had HIV or AIDS, and they didn't have to tell you, and they're
But
working
now I
in
can
your
ask
mouth.
you, David, are you vaccinated?
Well, that's in this COVID
Yeah.
era now. All those are off, and like we heard Dr. Shannon Kroner saying, teachers are asking kids to raise their hands if they're vaccinated. Teachers, everyone is asking you your own status, and that's private, personal medical information. Nobody should be asking you for
absolutely.
that.
I mean, the nurses in the hospital had to deal with it, right? They would take, and if you were unvaccinated, before they terminated them, right, they were making them wear a different colored badge to signify that, hey, this person's unvaccinated.
Might as well put a star on your chest.
What? That's not the country we live in.
Well, yeah, actually it is, and I've been kind of harping on this for a while. It is the country we live in, and there are certain people that are responsible for it.
Yes.
And those are, the elected officials like Dr. Pan, former Dr. Pan, Scott Wiener. I mean, when you look at the state of California, from the top down, governor all the way down to LA City Council, it is completely dominated by elected Democrats.
Yeah.
Who say they care about people and they care about all this different stuff. But all the challenges that we have, whether it's mandated vaccines, whether it's homeless, whether it's crime, whether it's whatever it is, it's because of the people that are in office. And the reality is they're Democrats. And so at some point, we talk about the issue, whatever it is, but we need to place some responsibility where it belongs. And now I've started moving also to placing responsibility on the people that vote for them.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so all of the things that have taken place, I mean, and I'll start at home. The 2 million Republicans that didn't vote for the recall of the governor. This is on you.
Absolutely.
And so it's not just the Democrats; it's the Republicans that have opted out, but their kids, your friends, coworkers' kids, your local firefighters, they're all having to suffer because you sat on your rear end and said, "Well, my vote's not going to count anyways."
Well, and here's the other thing: we have three extremely important elections going on. Well, it's one election, three extremely important people, and those are the LA County Board of Supervisors. That had a lot to do with how they handled things is how the city started handling things. And you know what? We've got three of them that are up for election, and anyone who's in these districts that's voting, you need to vote for a Republican.
Well,
Go stand behind it,
not necessarily because Catherine Barger is a Republican.
All right, so you need to vote for someone other than
Catherine Barger.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying not vote for her. All I'm saying is that
she was part of the problem.
People on both sides of the aisle are caught up into this syndrome that they're this fear and so we're, like I said, whether the responsibility lies with Republicans or Democrats, people have to be held accountable.
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunately, there was someone long ago that said, the two-party system would be the end of this country. And really, there isn't a two-party system anymore. They're all
It's a one-party system.
It's a one-party system, and it's driven by dollars. Whether it's Big
Well,
Pharma,
well,
it's the World Economic Forum.
Look at
wherever
LA
you
County.
wanna go.
Look at LA County. All of the employees, LA County contracted with what? Fulgent. You know, Fulgent
For the testing, you mean?
Yeah, for the testing, a company that has ties to communist China, and so they were forcing the sheriff's deputies, there was the county employees, all the hospital workers. I mean, Jeffy and I went to Fulgent. We
Yes,
were
we
out
did.
there in
In
front,
the rain.
in the
Yeah,
rain.
I spoke that day.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right, and because there is so much that people aren't aware of.
Well, it's no different than, with LA City. We had Bluestone,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And that was
And-
and wasn't that a no bid contract with
That-
Bluestone?
The Salem-Poor brothers.
That's right.
One of who sits on the LA Police
But-
and Fire Pension Board.
Which
Right,
you would
yeah.
think is a conflict of interest, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, common sense says that.
Right, common sense says that.
That was a $3 million no-bid contract. And then all of the perks and benefits that went for that. They tried to charge us, Matt, what was that, 62,
Oh, yeah,
50 twice a week or something?
They wanted you to pay for it.
Yeah, $500 a month.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, okay. Here's the question I have for you. So before all the pandemic took place, and I'll start with you, Matt. Matt, did you ever think about how you voted or what you voted for this took place? Did it ever occur to you that when you were voting, I mean, I don't know, did you even vote? Because some people didn't even vote before the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, become more awakened to all of it since the pandemic. I used to vote locally. I didn't think nationally mattered as much, especially living in California. But, I certainly pay more attention now, especially what's going on locally with the school boards. And
Do you
sheriffs
talk
and
to
all
other
those
people
kind of
about
things.
it? Do you talk to other people? This has happened to me, and now you need to be a lot more aware of it? Or are you still kind of private about talking about how you're voting?
It varies. I mean, like John was saying, like we were talking about, I don't necessarily, I vote based on principles and policies, and if, it happens to be a D or an R next to the name or an I or whatever it is,
Right.
it doesn't really matter. So
No, but
yeah,
what
I'm
I'm
pretty open
asking,
about,
are you talking to other people about how important it is to vote for certain policies? Because the reason I'm asking that question is what I see. I ran for office twice. I ran for LA County Supervisor District 3 in 2022, and I ran for California State Assembly in 2020. I didn't know anything about politics. I talked to big game, but I didn't even know we had an assembly. And here I ran for assembly. And the reason I asked that question is because I didn't talk about policy. I didn't understand about policy. I didn't think it was any of my business. I figured there were smarter people out there that could take care of it besides me.
Come to find out.
Wrong.
Yes, exactly. And so the reason I'm asking you is because we, as a public, if we don't talk about the experiences that you and John and many of you are having, and about to the people around us, you talked to, David, you said all these people didn't vote, which they didn't vote. I think that when people aren't aware of what's going on, to the people they know, it's like, this is happening to you, but are you talking to the people around you that this happened to me and you need to start really paying more attention to voting? Do you see it? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I've definitely,
Go ahead, Matt.
I've definitely been vocal about what's happening. I'm trying to use it to show people, because there's a lot of people that, disagree with me, family and friends disagree with me about maybe the vaccine itself, but they certainly are seeing what's going on here, a couple of years later, and LA City is still terminating people over this. So it's eye-opening, I think, for them to see that that's still happening, and they think it's kind of crazy, and it is. So yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, I certainly didn't want to get terminated, but I'm trying to use this opportunity to let people know, hey, this isn't really about health and safety. This is about something else. So yeah,
Well,
I'm more than willing to.
Yeah, well, and that's
go ahead.
that's what I think is so important, is that today it's a vaccine. What's it going to be tomorrow?
Well, and all of this is, originally it started with the vaccine, right? And we pushed back against that. And then it became something much bigger. People still think that at Firefighters for Freedom, all we care about is vaccine mandate. It's not. This is about the erosion of our freedoms and of our personal liberties in this country. And that's really what we're fighting for.
Yeah.
The vaccine was the vessel that they used
And
to strip that.
very effectively, very quickly, and I think
And efficiently.
And I think it surprised even them how
How
easily
how
and
people
how quickly
capitulated.
they, compliance And then we had a young lady, 24. We had her on last week. 5 years in the Air Force and was generally discharged because she refused to be vaccinated.
They put her 140 days in isolation for being vaccinated, 2 weeks at a time, and then 2 days off.
Meaning
2 weeks
unvaccinated,
at a time.
right?
Yeah, unvaccinated. I apologize.
Yeah.
But they had her, 140 days, and she was even in a foreign country, and she almost wasn't going to be able to come back.
How does that happen?
How does that happen? But how does it happen? How did Matt get fired?
Right.
I mean
and that's where people really don't grasp. I had somebody spouting off on an Instagram post earlier, about a podcast that I was on, and basically saying all you had to do was sign an exemption. So you want me to lie and go against my morals and my values? I'm not putting an exemption in for a very specific reason. It has nothing to do whether I'm religious or not. I can't put in a medical one because doctors, they're losing their licenses. My doctor won't write one, even though I have a condition that I shouldn't, right? So, there's people still just think it's real simple. Just file it.
Just file it. But again, just ask permission for your freedom. Just ask.
But they're short-sighted when they don't realize today it's a vaccine. What's it going to be tomorrow? And as long as you just say, why didn't you file the exemption? Because you're not seeing the bigger picture.
Well, once you file it, you're acknowledging their position
as being correct.
That they have the ability that they're giving you
correct.
The right. And so, Al, we're down to the last minute already. How do people get in touch with Firefighters for Freedom?
You can go to our website at firefighters4freedom.com or .org, either one, firefightersforfreedom.org.
Donate.
Thank you. And then you can also find us on Instagram. That's our biggest following there. And we're going to start doing some stuff. We've got some podcasts coming, lives that we're going to be doing every week.
So just real quick before we go off air,
we want to make sure we thank Matt.
Yes, please go to Firefighters for Freedom and donate because they are still having to pay huge legal fees to help support Matt and other firefighters that have been fired and are going to be fired. Matt, thank you so much for calling in. John, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Pleasure
And
to be
Michelle,
here.
we're glad you made it in. And we're David and Jeffy on the Los Angeles Hispanic Republican Club on AM 870, The Answer.
And we'll be right back with Jennifer Kennedy. And we're coming back. And here we are again. And
We are live on the air.
we're live on the air. And welcome, Jennifer. Here we are, Capitol Watch.
Here we are. Yes, today we're not going to be looking at the Capitol. We're looking directly at the city of Los Angeles because
right.
it's great that we had John Knoxx here in studio talking again about the continued firings and terminations of our firefighters and our police officers going on to this day here in May of 2023. And that's because, reminding our listeners, LA City still has its COVID vax mandate in place.
I thought Karen Bass got rid of that.
No, she did. Of course, she did not. Karen Bass claims to want a stronger, safer, healthier, happier Los Angeles, right?
Safe inside.
Safe inside. And I was at City Council the other day saying, you know what? Stronger, safer, happier, healthier starts with ending this ridiculous, stupid, senseless, and cruel vaccination mandate because it applies to city employees and workers. That's everybody. That's our firefighters. That's our police. That's our
Janitors.
teachers. And janitors. Yes, in every city department of every kind. It also applies to city volunteers. Here's a real
What?
problem. As we heard, yes, it does. So this means anyone who wants to, and elected officials. So what this mandate is doing, it's saying you can't even volunteer in your government. You can't run for elected office because if you get elected, you're going to have to be vaxxed.
Have we carded the city council?
We should. We really should.
wait a minute,
But here's the
but
thing, and
there
also contractors, anyone who contracts for the city. And you know my problem with Granada Hills Charter, who continues to have a student COVID-19 vaccination mandate. They also still have parent volunteers must be vaccinated to come on campus to volunteer. But here's the ridiculous, hypocrisy of that. Up at that school, they have revised one of their policies, which allows visitors, capital V visitor, if you're a visitor, you can come on campus indoors or outdoors for events, regardless of your vax status. But if the next day you want to volunteer and pass out glue sticks at the TK8 school, you can't because now you're a parent volunteer. And those people, according to the LA City and the LAUSD mandate, those people have to be vaccinated. So in LA City, we've got the LA City workers mandate dovetailing with the LAUSD mandate. And just last week, on Friday, let me pull up that stat for you. On May 18th, 10 veteran LAUSD teachers received notice that they will not have their job next year due to their vax status. While everyone else is going about their business, and I mean everybody in the world thinking we're back to normal, and people talking in articles and news pieces about, wow, COVID's over, thank God it's
Except
done.
in LA City.
Except in LA City, they are continuing to fire rafts of people. And they have had these teachers and counselors on off with no pay for so long, and then they're finally telling them, and by the way, you're fired.
Sounds like John.
This is still happening, and this cannot continue. We know that there's no state of emergency anywhere. We know that now, you heard the news about the J&J shot, right? J&J is
It's
also
been banned from the U.S.
It is not available, and in fact, it's being thrown in the trash. So at this point, we have, notice, the Pfizer and the Moderna and the J&J, all of these monovalent shots that everybody just had to have in order to keep their job. They didn't ever reach FDA approval, did they? No, they didn't. They just got revoked, abandoned, and thrown in the trash. And these are the shots everybody's mandate is based on. So the city's mandate is completely out of date. If they really want to keep enforcing it, I suggest they revise it and put it in front of the public and justify why they're going to force this bivalent on people, which has never been tested on humans.
Well, what is it that, who is the person, I saw something in the news about someone who had been taking, there were a bunch of them that had taken saline shots and not actually taken
Well,
the
of course,
vaccine.
practically all the world leaders around the globe who pretended to take these shots, and then sure enough, turns out they didn't because they were scared of them also. And so they're being found to have committed fraud. And that's, yes, it's very satisfying to see them being punished, but it's also it's enraging.
It's not enough punishment, though, because
It's
you've got
not.
too many people still losing jobs.
That's right. When you see so many people having lost their livelihoods, their everything,
Their savings.
their
Their
medical
homes.
benefits, people. We still have, of course, our police and fire who have lost. They don't have medical care for their children to this day because of these ridiculous terminations. People who have had to, they've left the state. These mandates have changed people's lives. They have forced them out of the state. They forced them out of all kinds of decisions. And I'm trying to think of the thing recently where they were saying, well, you know what, maybe people can come back, right? People who've lost their jobs or whatever, and maybe we can have them all come back. And it's like, too many people had to make massive life changes because of these ridiculous
But
mandates.
here's something that we didn't get a chance to talk to with John about, is that if you want to come back onto the fire department, if you want to come in on the fire department and be a new fireman, you have to take the vaccine.
Yes, and again, it's the new bivalent, right? This is the new, the Wuhan Omicron.
Is that going to be more effective than monkeypox?
There's
a lot in the name.
Right, there is a lot in the
But
name.
here's the thing. Do you happen to know the numbers of the class that's coming up, John?
Which class? So,
Any one of them.
So it's interesting. LA County just had a lateral firefighter paramedic test, and they had somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 people show up for that test. I know we had about at least 100 of our paramedics.
You're
who
not
went-
speaking on part of the fire department of Los Angeles City, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
I'm
Just making sure.
Information that I've read.
Just clarifying.
And talked to. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So anyway, but from my understanding, from the individuals I've talked to, they have stated that we had about 100 people or so that went over to take LA County's test to lateral over there because they don't
LA
have them.
City or LA County?
They went from LA City to LA County to
Okay.
take the test to lateral because they don't have a vaccine mandate.
Anymore.
Right.
Anymore, correct.
So this is the point that I wanted to jump on with you, Jennifer, to piggyback with you about how they still have this mandate. What they don't realize is that because they have this mandate, they're not even able to hire people because people don't want to be
Well,
vaccinated.
that's right. I've been saying this at City Council for weeks. You know, they got recruiting and retention problems in the police department. time. They have recruiting and retention in fire. They have who wants to come to a city when you are going to have to submit to this completely experimental and unnecessary COVID shot when we all know there's just really there's never been a reason to take it, frankly. But there's no justifiable. They don't even have anything to stand on. No states of emergency, no public health orders, no public emergency. Everybody's had COVID. 95 people.
The federal government's not even mandating it.
There's literally
It's
no
gone.
reason left that anyone can justify this anymore except for ego and control.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't know why LA is dragging its feet here because San Diego.
They don't want to pay back the billions of
We
dollars.
saw, you know what? Of course, it's a bad look, right? If they suddenly bring people back on the job or if they suddenly drop the mandate, it looks bad because then it shows that they were wrong all along. I'm sure they have a problem there. San Diego had the same city mandate. We saw the lawsuit brought by PERC and Reopen San Diego, and they're the ones who just successfully pressured San Diego into dropping the mandate and also paying attorney's fees. Right? And so their employees are back to work. It's like, LA, hello.
Yeah, but won't they have to rehire the terminated?
You know what? That would be great if they did. But right now, there doesn't seem to be a vehicle to force the city to rehire. And even in San Diego, you know what they said? Wait, you know what they said? They literally said, well, people are welcome to reapply.
So if they drop the mandate, you still have to reapply for your job.
That's what San Diego said.
So if as it's written right now, if they drop the mandate would go away and you could continue with your job. If you were terminated, you can reapply, but you would have to be vaccinated because all new employees have to be vaccinated per the ordinance.
Kind of a catch-22.
So you're just kind of screwed coming and going.
The city council needs to take down that ordinance. It's out of date. It refers to all the shots that have now had their FDA, their EUA authorization revoked. It talks about a dosing schedule that no longer exists. In fact, it's unenforceable. You cannot figure out by looking at that ordinance how you can comply. And I think they're just waffling.
Well, even with that, it states in there that you shall get vaccinated, right, with either the J&J or Moderna or Pfizer. And then all boosters, right? It talks about the boosters. Well, if that's the case, how come, like for the fire department and the police department, why aren't everyone's out of compliance because not everyone's boosted.
Right. Have they gone through all the departments and have demanded that third and fourth shot? And how many boosters are going to be required? Yeah. They're really pushing it. And I don't know why they're dragging. We all know why they're dragging their feet. It's problematic for them. But they need to get real and take that down. If we want this city to be protected, we want public safety, we want our police and fire fully staffed, and we want good candidates.
No. We want it, but the city doesn't want it.
Well,
they're
that's
making too
true.
much money on all the homeless.
That's right. And when you look at Karen Bass's new move for this, the reform-minded police and the billions of dollars that they just don't directed
$13.2
billion dollars going into this notion of reform policing and civilians doing traffic
so
stops.
Let's talk about that
Please.
for a second, really quick. So West Hollywood, we have our LA County Supervisor District 3, Lindsay Horvath, who voted, because we talked about this, to get rid of 4 sheriff.
5, I think it was.
I think it was 5. And then she wanted 5. I think it was 5. You're right. And then they wanted ambassadors. There are nothing but videos of ambassadors standing there on the street corner while people are being robbed. They're being beaten. And now West Hollywood City Council has decided, we want to bring back 4 of the sheriff.
4 of them. Yes, 4.
Yes.
Not all 5, but
Just
4.
Well, Jennifer, we just got a couple more minutes because Don Carlos is getting ready to come in with Camille, and what's in store with the city council next week? What is it that we?
I'd like to ask listeners to do. Not only do we need to still donate to, we got Firefighters for Freedom. We also have Roll Call for Freedom, pushing for all the city employees. That's right, Michael McMahon, who's founded that group. So go to those websites. That's rollcallforfreedom.com. That's firefighters for the numeral 4 freedom.com. But also, I want people to focus on our LAUSD teachers right now. These who are being fired. We can go to to on Instagram, we've got CE for Medical Freedom to look for updates on that. And these teachers are going to need funding for their own action. So we need to stand behind all
Is
of
Tracy,
these.
is Tracy Schroeder included in that?
That is correct. That is right. And Tracy ran for president of the UTLA board, was unsuccessful, but that board also is not doing right by its own members. So we need to support, especially these teachers. Really, we're looking at the 10 who were just fired, and however many are on deck to be fired. That's right. So we need to support them and go to CE for Medical Freedom. There's also a fundraising night coming up, and that's going to be, oh no, that's a different fundraiser. Sorry. I will keep you updated on fundraisers. That was an old one. I see I'm on their site and I'm going through and I see an old fundraiser. They really need fundraising
You know
because
what?
I want to say they're maybe the least visible right now of many of the public service
Here's the thing,
groups.
everyone. You don't need a fundraiser to donate $1, $5. I mean, I know if you say all I have is $5, $5 multiplied by 10 people is $50. Multiplied by 100 people is $500. So that $5 goes a long way. Skip Starbucks and send a donation. And if you want to do skip Starbucks for a week, you can do $5 to each one of them.
Yep.
And also you need to badger the board members at LAUSD, and you can write them at boardmembers@lausd.net. You can also tell Alberto Carvalho, our superintendent, that he needs to work to take this down. You know, he came in from Florida as Florida Man Saves Los Angeles, right? And he needs to work hard to take down this mandate because it's no longer someone else's problem.
No.
And that's at LAUSD SUP. That's LAUSD SOUP. And tell Mr. Carvalho it's time to end this thing.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer.
All right,
Thank
so
you, John.
Thank you.
John,
Thank you, guys.
it's always a pleasure to have you.
All right.
And
Fantastic.
All right.
we're shifting over to the Don Carlos segment with Camille. And come
Mr.
on
Don
in.
Monroe himself.
Yes.
Hi, nice to see you.
So Jeffy, as they're getting settled, this year was going to be the 10th LA Pride Night at Dodger Stadium.
Oh yes, I posted about that. It was a nightmare, and here was the biggest nightmare about that is that they had a group come that was invited. They are transgendered men that have become women, but they're not just transgendered women. They're nuns.
They're nuns. Well,
Against the Catholic Church.
Some of them are, and some are just men that dressed up as nuns, but and they were uninvited based on their comments and behaviors, and because they were uninvited, LA Pride, which has been a major part of LA Pride Night at Dodger Stadium, pulled out, which really showed me that it's all or nothing. You have to accept every behavior, or we're not going to participate. So
With that, we're going to Don Carlos and Camille.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to accept what we got to talk about tonight.
That's right.
Because, we're very inclusive here. A to Z is what I'm calling it. So.
I just want to real quickly point out that, in Florida, when Ron DeSantis said no kids at the drag show, just on your point of it's all or nothing, then they're like, well, we're canceling. We're canceling at the Pride Parade or whatever it was. You
That's
can't
how
have
he got in
kids here.
trouble with Disneyland. That's when he pulled everything on Disney because Disney wanted to continue to carry on, and he said, "No, we're not having any part of that."
That battle's not over yet. It seems. That's going to keep going. But we have Camille.
Hello,
back.
hello.
Yeah, we didn't. Did we make that introduction? We didn't, did we? Did we?
No.
No. Okay. And you're a returning guest.
I
and
am.
the big question on my mind, and there's a lot of questions, but this one is, what happened to the chickens? They weren't laying eggs for a while. Did you have problems with
Her
that?
chickens. I was
Chickens.
like, what?
Okay, so I am going to get canceled for this. I am not behind there was like a controversial
Chicken
conspiracy
not laying egg
theory
conspiracy?
here. Now,
Okay.
okay. For one, I have always fed my chickens like Premier feed. I'm no soy. Everything's organic, non-GMO. That's how I've always been.
Okay, so you're outside the normal commercial chicken.
So I don't know if there was
arena.
something going on with that flock, that chicken feed. Chickens do not lay eggs during the winter when they are going through a molting
I thought
stage.
they lay less eggs.
So if they're molting, which is usually fall to spring, so they're losing their feathers. And
So
they
did we just pay
stopped
$20
laying
a dozen
eggs.
for
Well,
nothing?
no. There was a
God
few
dang
things
it.
going on there. There
Okay.
was commercial egg farm fires. And in California, when back in, now
Just
I
like
forget the year,
cattle,
but when they
the cattle
Prop
caught on
12,
fire too.
Prop 12 passed, and the chickens, any eggs that we sell in California have to be from chickens that have like X amount of space to run around in. And so with the loss of several
Only
hundred
if they're in California, though,
thousand,
right?
well, right,
But you can't ship.
but
you can't ship them in from other states
Right.
if they don't have the same
So
criteria.
we had.
That's why eggs
And
are so
of course,
expensive.
with inflation going up, shipping costs going up, and now limited supply.
So
My girlfriend has.
Wait.
She now has 8 chickens in her backyard in Woodland Hills and 2 ducks, and she brought me duck eggs.
California is going across state lines and checking on that standard?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, because we
Yeah.
we import food.
Yeah.
Sounds like they get a nice little vacation now,
So
too.
any eggs that are sold here in our grocery stores had to go through
The chicken process.
That chicken process because of Prop 12. Back, I forget the year a few years ago that went into effect.
Well,
that most people aren't aware of.
So yeah.
And here's the other problem. If you find a farmer outside of California, you got to make sure the trucker bringing him in is a licensed trucker with a company and not an independent contractor. And pretty soon at 2035, they won't be able to drive in if it's a diesel truck.
We are
We're
doing
never
this to
gonna have
ourselves.
eggs.
And you guys, these
I-
are policies
I
that
don't-
are supposed to
I
help.
don't understand how that makes sense, because I had a friend who ran his own brokerage trucking company, and he was competing against truckers who were driving from Mexico being paid $100 a day, right, crossing the border, bringing in shipments, and then they would stick around and do trips for peanuts, and then go back across the border in the evening. So he was like, you can't compete. Just their living wage is so much less than what it is here for people to survive. So people who are closer, like you're in San Diego
I'm in Orange County.
Orange County?
North Orange County.
Thanks
so
for
people
driving
closer
in.
to
What's
thank
that?
you for driving
Thanks
in.
for
Yes,
driving in.
it's always better.
Better than San Diego.
Yeah, better than San Diego. Not to bag on our San Diego folks, but anyway, that's just a point as far
Moral
as
of the story is get your
AB.
own backyard flock.
Yeah,
And how many chickens do you have?
I have what I am more than legally allowed.
Don't say it.
She's got a few chickens in the backyard,
Don't
and
say
she
it.
has brought us eggs. Did you bring us eggs this time?
I'm sorry, I did not.
Oh,
Don't
that's
cancel me.
Too
Sorry,
close
Dawn.
to the
No
winter.
eggs for
Too
you.
close to the winter.
Too close to the winter.
I actually saw Dave in my area today. We were at an event earlier today.
Oh, you were the OC HRC.
Yeah.
thing. Okay, and how'd that go?
It went well.
Yeah?
Dave
Yeah.
Dave, I loved what you said today. I was actually
Thank
very
you.
inspired. I was that person going,
Which part?
yes, amen.
What-
He just made, so I had actually written in my notes that I didn't look at when I spoke about exactly what you said about framing the argument and turning their words on them.
Right.
Whereas we're not,
Education,
equity, as opposed to school choice.
Yeah.
Because that gets them thinking. You hear school choice, they hear school choice, and they're
Right-wing
immediately like,
MAGA.
you're obviously, Trump is your savior, and you're
Yeah.
trying to shoot me with all your guns, and so I don't like, I don't want to hear about school choice. So I love that you said that, and I had written that in my notes, not exactly your point, but framing the argument and turning their words against them, and then I never said it because I never looked at my notes.
Yeah, well, no, Mindy and Suzanne did a great job.
David's got a lot of those, though. That's not the only one.
Yeah, Mindy and Suzanne, they did a great job. This was at Bishop Mendez. He lives in Anaheim Hills now, and they provided the club. He provided the clubhouse
How nice.
for the meeting, and there was some new people there, and Camille was one of the main speakers, and it was good. And so we went there. Luis drove down with
Ellie?
No, not Ellie. Ellie didn't make it, but Rudy Villalobos. The three of us drove down there, and that was great. Well, actually, Luis drove. I slept.
I just thought
I
you
was gonna say, you
I
probably
thought that was
slept.
like your entourage. I saw you get out, and it felt like everyone just kept getting out of the car, and I'm like, Dave's here. He's got
we know it.
his
The
cult
Volkswagen
following.
broke down,
and Sal, and
so we got a
Sal-
new clown car.
Sal was there taking
Sal was
pictures.
there.
Yeah, and so
Sal came out too.
Yeah.
Wow,
No,
a
Sal.
lot of big bods in there.
Sal had, we were joined by Jack Guerrero. Jack Guerrero
Yes.
came, and also Michelle Martinez came.
Very
because
nice.
we wanted to support that group because they did such a great job, and it was great to see you there. Now that let's get back to why we're here.
Yeah.
Enough about us.
Well,
Enough about us. No, this is fun. Let's keep talking about us.
but what's been new since the last time you came? It's been a few months.
It's in a few months.
Yeah.
What is new?
What's the new fight?
I am now a co-host on a podcast. It's not my podcast, but I'm a co-host on it, and
Okay.
it's related to California issues.
Is that the California Public? Oh,
I can say the name if you
Say
want
it.
me to.
Go
I
ahead.
just- California Underground.
California Underground. Oh, nice. Okay. All right. And what is it, like specific topics or just
It's-
all California stuff?
It's specific to California. We obviously election season is starting to heat up, and so we will be bringing on candidates to kind of promote them, find out about their platforms and stuff. But yeah, we just talk about California is such a unique state, and we
unique.
have so many issues that are unique to us. So it's fun to really talk about California issues. Both the host and I are very into researching everything. Like we're very,
You're a researcher.
we're
right? We
nerdy,
know. Yeah.
we're like bookish
Yeah.
people, and so it's fun for us to kind of really dive into these topics and talk about them, or bring on guests.
It's good to have
or-
it's good to have depth into things though, because there's so many people who are out there. Whatever flag they're I don't care what flag it is. They're out there just spewing things that they just resonated with in the moment, but it's only skin deep that they understand. And so it's kind of like, well, you might as well just be yelling out your window. I mean, pretty much,
It feels that way sometimes.
Yeah, but when you can really get into, I don't know, like we started it kind of with the LGBTQ thing in Dodger
Right.
Stadium. Today I took my daughters to the Beverly Center, and they had a drag event, pretty big drag event in the Beverly Center.
That's not Cars, by the way.
That's not NRA.
No,
It's not the NRA.
there might have been a lot of guns. I don't know. I mean,
NRHA.
Yeah, NRA.
Drag racing.
yeah. Well, so yeah, we're doing the shopping, and my daughter's just like, "Dad, there's a trans thing going outside." And I went outside. No, it's not trans. it's drag. But they got a kick out of just the I guess the drama.
But you know what? Here's
You know.
but I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second, because here's something that's interesting: is that when parents talk to their kids about what a drag show is, what a trans
I did
it
talk to
looks
them
like,
about them,
but
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. For your kids to say, "Oh, there's a trans show going on or a drag show going on," it's because you're actively engaging your children in what is going on, which means you still have control as a parent as to what they're going to think and how they're going to believe about certain things. So don't
Sure.
stop.
That's because they're homeschooled.
Yeah, they
Yes.
are homeschooled. But even if they weren't homeschooled, it's just really tapping in to their world, because they're living their own world. They're making certain look, and that's another thing too. Is one of the things the fundamentals of what I teach my kids is a lot of your ideas are not yours. They don't belong to you. They don't belong to you until, like Camille, you do the homework.
Hey, and there's one of your
Until-
kids in there.
Yeah,
I did bring an entourage.
yeah.
That's Dominic.
Yeah. I brought my kid too, just in case. But so when you tap in, that makes you present in what's going on in their world, and then the things that you might want to get them experience too, and then they appreciate it.
All right, so now we're going to go for our break,
Uh-oh.
and you're listening to the Don Carlos segment on Jeffy and David on the Los Angeles Hispanic Republican Club on AM 870 The Answer with Camille as our guest. We'll be right back.
And we're back with Don Carlos and Camille.
Yeah, and Camille just refreshed my or reinforced my bitter sweet,
Love
I got
of
screwed.
chickens?
I love chickens, but then I got screwed by paying $18 for a dozen of eggs. They had everybody was rushing down there, and what's crazy?
Down where?
To the store. They were like, no eggs. There were no eggs. You didn't experience this.
I don't eat a lot of eggs,
Okay.
but no, and my friends all
And
bring me eggs.
even worse, I'm not going to name the grocery store, but then within the last few weeks,
Sprouts?
I've been getting a lot of expired eggs. I'm like, why would you give these out?
Because you're not shopping at Trader Joe's.
Oh, well, I
Or
won't
at
say
your
the
friends'
name.
houses.
Okay. So, but yeah. Also, something we have in common. You homeschool.
I homeschool,
Yeah.
yes.
And that's going strong.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
I have 4 kids, and I have always homeschooled them. They've never been in public or private school.
What do you say to people when they're just like, "Oh, don't you think that you're not socializing them?" That's the big one.
That is the big one. I feel like that question dropped.
No, it didn't.
When COVID started, you still get that question?
Because I have family that are social workers.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm not sorry, but it's like their biggest worry. I'm like,
socializing.
Do you know how big our family is? How are they not going to socialize?
Well, that's true, but they're socializing in school with peers their own age at set times. They're not out and about learning how to interact
Especially
with
if you're in a
people.
Catholic school, because it's like shut it. Right when they don't let you talk in that class.
Well, break out the ruler
or pass
your
a note.
recess, your breaks or whatever are only so long. And I mean, have we seen?
When you think about it, isn't it like prison? It really is.
Probably really is.
Are you talking about Catholic school?
I'm talking about school. I mean, you have metal detectors.
I don't know. I think the teachers are going to disagree with you. The ones that have been hit over the head recently.
The food's probably better.
I think there was a song. Didn't say, "Teacher, leave those kids alone."
Well, it's not to bag on the teachers. They're trying their best, but I'm just saying overall the culture, and then some of the school's colors that I've seen paint these things. It looks like a prison. And you look at the fence. I don't care what kind of fence you put up there. They try to use different materials to make it look just not like a jail, but it still looks like a jail.
Hey, come on!
It's not keeping people out.
Your uncle did great things. With the schools.
He did. His heart was always in the right place. The thing is when you have one person looking out for the children's interest and the rest of the board, or most of the board, I can't say all of them because there are people who help.
I don't know if Camille knows who your uncle is.
George McKenna. He was a superintendent of education for.
They did a movie on him.
Yeah.
Wow.
They did do a movie on him.
I feel like I am amongst royalty.
Yeah.
I am not worthy.
He would. Yeah. It's interesting. He was just part of the good old club of the days where they can just curse, swear at your children, and then they'd be like, "Damn, he does love me, huh?" He wouldn't be so passionate.
We're not supposed to be doing that?
Yeah, no, I mean, apparently. I mean, my kid's back there. So he's thumbs up over there. He's like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
If Dad's not cursing, he doesn't mean it.
I love it's work, and you know this. Parenting is work.
It's work.
But I love having my kids with me. I absolutely love having. I love that
I think they love being with me too.
Mine are older. I think yours are older now too.
Yeah.
I have 3 teenagers.
12. Yeah, they're all going to be teenagers.
And then one younger, slightly
one
younger, almost a teenager.
Oh, see, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
12, 14, 15, 17.
Okay, mine's almost 12, 14, 15, 17.
Boom. See?
So, yeah.
You're living my life.
I feel like I have. Yes, there were plenty of days where I screamed at no, I didn't scream. I won't say that. But you probably have been there where you're like threatening if you're not going to get this done, I am dropping you off at the public school.
Yeah, right. No.
I think we've all been there.
No, well, this year was really the first year. They got to taste the school system, really a system. And something, it took a while because initially they were kind of like second guessing the whole thing. It's like, wow, I have to manage myself. Mm-hmm. That's different. Mm-hmm. And so I started bringing them to the office where they would do a lot of their work, and it started to feel like, look, what I explained to them was, just like Dad comes to work and Dad's the boss, guess what? I have to answer to myself. And sometimes the difficulty there is you could slack off and then pay the consequences later, because if you are not going to do the work, it's going to show, right? A lot of people who run a business, multi-generational business, family business, it's very easy for that to happen because the board of directors they're answering to are themselves, and they typically aren't going to fire themselves. But the question you have to ask yourself as an entrepreneur is, would I hire myself? Because if the answer is no, then you need to kick yourself in the behind and get to work. And so that's what I teach my kids is, would you hire yourself? Would you, based on your work ethics and how you're getting things done and how you're managing your time, I go, and I really see them as if they're being groomed as bosses, right? Not necessarily they want to be a bossy person, although one of my kids is pretty bossy. It's always the little one. What's up the little ones? They have to just boss the big ones around.
Because they're the end of the road.
That's true. No one really listens to her, I guess.
Well,
they find ways to weasel, her, like weasel. So she's got to be firm.
But she stands up for herself.
She stands her ground.
Didn't she jump up on a desk in school and stand up for
She
herself?
did. She took over the entire class multiple times.
Attica.
Yes, she really did. And she was telling the teacher, or the kids rather, you don't have to listen to her.
So is that when you had to homeschool?
No, he had to homeschool.
There was
when he
another
got
one.
kicked out of this kid's school.
I got banned. They didn't kick me out.
Yeah, he got banned. I'm sorry.
I left willingly.
He was banned.
And I didn't
standing
even
up for
know.
his kid.
I didn't even know there was an issue until I got an email.
You didn't know you were not allowed to be a parent at this
exactly,
school?
or ask questions.
Or ask questions.
Yeah, it felt very much like Los Angeles mandates. But yeah, I think many of our listeners. I mean, look, I was one of those people. I thought, am I crazy trying to homeschool? I mean, it sounded good, right? Initially, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. Dang it!
Well, hold on. I pushed you to homeschool them.
Ooh.
I kept saying you have to homeschool
because I
them.
questioned
you have
it
to
and I brought it
homeschool
up. You're like, you have to. Well, after I told you the story, because they were just kind of like.
I'm like, you got to
my
homeschool.
daughter essentially was being bullied by an adult.
By
And
a
I
teacher.
By a teacher. And I went down there and I asked her questions. And then she did what many people do on the extreme left, started screaming hysterically. And I
And
was
crying.
just like, wow. And see, at least since we talk on the radio show and we deal with a lot of, not that we have guests that come here and scream, but we've seen enough. I was like, oh, this is what we're doing, And I still made sure she heard what I had to say. And I left.
And that's the last time he was allowed on the campus.
And that's the last I was allowed on campus.
And the teachers unions protect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, except it was a Catholic school.
Oh, okay.
Same thing. It's just
Well,
a different
God
name.
protects
The
it.
Archdiocese. Or whatever, So,
So I decided you need to homeschool them, and especially with everything that was going on, you need to homeschool them.
that too.
And
It happened all in the whole COVID stuff.
I had
and
a client that was doing this great homeschool with her son, and I said, you got to call these people. And, to his benefit, he did. He called them, and he got the girls in
I
there.
caught a couple.
Yeah, but I mean, you hired them, and they've been doing great.
Yeah. And for those parents who think that, you're not going to have any work, it's still work. It's like, when you're monitoring their progress and what things that they're getting done correctly, not correctly. But you know what? You really get to know your kids. You get to see where the struggles are.
Yes.
The pitfalls, etc. With the school that my kids were at, it was like constantly I'd go and we'd have like a parent-teacher conference and they needed this and then you come to after hours and there my kids are going to after hours and still struggling. I'm like, okay, so I guess being a parent isn't enough. You got to be the teacher.
That's being a parent.
I know. Well, yeah, you know what? Yes, taking accountability for what's going on in their lives. And I wouldn't change it. I'll say that. I mean, it's been a lot of work. It's taken a lot of time away from my regular work. But you know what? If you truly believe that the future are your children, then that's the
Wise
sacrifice
investment.
you have to make.
And you know your children best, so you
Yeah.
know what's best for them and how they
Oh
work.
yeah. I mean, they think I'm some sort of like wizard or something. They think I have all the answers. But at some point, they'll figure out that Dad's. I always tell them, I'm like, I'm not that smart. I always tell them. And
I tell mine the opposite.
I know everything.
I do.
Everything.
You will never get away with anything because I know it
you need
all.
a Darth Vader voice changer.
The eyes behind the back of your head.
I've told them that. Of course, they're too old to believe that, but also because I am really good at research and finding things, and I've kind of shown them some of the things what little information
think I have
what I was
eyes the
able
back
to
of my head,
find,
too.
and they were like, my son, I remember a few years ago, he went, "That's kind of scary," and I'm like, "Don't you forget that."
Yeah, Mom knows how to get it
We
done.
haven't had much trouble.
Yeah. I had the whole eyes at the back of the head thing. Someone kept stealing candy, and I just, who steals in this house, And
I know
anyway,
which
I
one.
put a camera in the kitchen, just because one of those little mobile ones you can put anywhere. And,
Brilliant.
yeah, it did take long.
He'll be tracking their cars too. Don't worry.
I'm not gonna track their cars. Gosh, I don't even,
Says, what are you doing on the 6th Street
He's
Bridge?
laughing.
Shoot.
I'm right, aren't I? Aren't I?
No,
Yes.
he
Look at him.
No, he's shaking his head. He knows. I love my kids to death, but I also want to be able to trust that I've raised them right to be able to, deal with things. And we can't control everything. I think that's why we're where we're at today in society, is that there's this belief that we are able to control everything and everything's going to be peachy dory if we do. And we find that, no, it's not the case.
Or the complete opposite. We believe the government knows what's best for them, and we completely turn them over to the government and think they're going to take care of it. I don't need to pick up anything at home. It's just they're in school. And
yeah. And right now with the whole digital currency, if people are paying attention, and maybe they're not, you have Canada that's like, no, sorry, we saw what you did to the truckers, man. How can we trust a country who abused the people, the trucker convoy, who abused them, who made their lives hell? Even people who donated were having their accounts frozen. We're having so they have right now they're like, the Bank of Canada is like, we want to know what your input is on this. It's kind of like a hearing process for regulation. There were a lot of people that were just like, hell no, we saw what you did. And here in America, we ought to be thinking the same thing.
Yeah, but you know how they're going to get it pushed? They're going to allow crime to continue, because this is what's happening at the farmers markets.
You mean stealing everything?
No cash?
No, hold on a second.
Are they throwing eggs?
No. Yeah, right. They're throwing your kids. See, if you're missing eggs, that's why. What they're doing is they're allowing all this crime to go on. They're allowing businesses to be robbed. And so businesses now are starting to put notes up that as of this date, they're not going to accept cash any longer. So what they're doing is, by having less police out and less enforcement, they're having more businesses now starting to take more cards and less cash. And that's how they're going to get away with it.
Because then they can shut you down there.
Yeah, because
they can control you.
I don't want to take cash because I don't want to get robbed.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to rob the stuff in the store. That doesn't make no sense.
Well, right now, are you seeing like the Target? Where is that Target? That's everything's behind doors now.
Oh, that's in San Francisco.
Of course.
But then everything's behind doors in San Francisco now if you want to live there.
I've been to those kinds of stores that are like chained up, and I just walk out. It's so burdensome.
Yeah, because you go, you push the button for an attendant, and you're waiting and waiting to get a $3 item that's behind the glass.
I got a better idea. Just take one of those stores. Everybody orders online, and you just walk up, get your groceries, pay for it, and I hand it to you, and you walk out the door.
You sound like digital currency right now.
That's my point. But you just
parked
proved my
up the
point.
problem.
But I already do that, but they deliver it to my door instead.
Yeah. But that's my point, is that you have these stores that have locked up everything in their store due to theft, and this is where we're going. This is what they've done. They've pushed and pushed so that people can go in and steal, take whatever they want to, and now the stores are locking everything up. So either people aren't shopping, or you've got Target that has pulled out. T-Mobile. T-Mobile had the largest store. They paid $50 million and bought it from AT&T in San Francisco. Just shut it down because the theft was so bad. So that's how they're going to push the currency issue.
I mean, theft's been around forever. I mean,
yeah,
obviously
but it was
it's higher
enforced.
now,
but it was enforced by police.
Yeah, they just don't want to enforce it. So
is the National Guard coming in?
Only to San Francisco.
Well, yeah, because they defunded the police. Crime got out of control. Now they're saying the National Guard's coming in, although that was announced, 2 weeks ago, and nothing's happened?
That's not happening.
I don't know. I don't know. I thought they did send them in. They didn't?
As far as I know, they haven't come yet.
No, it's probably because they sent them all to the border.
Jeffy with the jokes. The serious jokes.
Yeah.
sorry. I'm really sorry, Gavin, but we need them at the border because, we got a problem down there. You're going to have to solve that problem. Hire some police. I don't know.
Well, you know what? I mean, more power to you that, we're staying here buckled down in California. It almost feels like it's a zombie apocalypse. But we'll survive.
Double tap.
We'll survive. Just call me.
Double tap.
I got your back with eggs.
I'll find you.
Some fruit trees. We'll survive.
Eggs and Twinkies.
Eggs and Twinkies.
I don't know. The Twinkies are locked up. Is they coming? They're up there with the ding-dongs.
Yeah, those Twinkies never expire, right?
I don't. Wait, didn't they bury one or something?
Prehistoric.
And they bricked it up, and it was still fine at some school in the 80s or something.
It was like it was a time capsule thing.
Yeah, they did it at one of the schools from the 1980s or something.
Could you imagine coming back 40, 50 years later and eating that thing?
Didn't they
Well,
do
I
that with
imagine.
like chicken nuggets too for McDonald's?
Oh,
Or someone
nuggets are-
found one in
yeah.
the back of their car and they're like, I haven't been to McDonald's in 8 months and this chicken
I know what a
nugget's still
nugget.
fine.
I know. I don't
It's
eat there
still fresh.
anymore, but I
It's
know.
actually hot because it's been so hot in my car.
No, it doesn't taste like chicken. Especially if it's been in the car a long time. That thing's like a puck.
So stock up on Twinkies and chicken nuggets. We'll never die.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna be preserved from the inside out.
Now, Camille, I forgot when I asked the question today: menudo or pozole? Did you raise your hand for which
I did
one?
not.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you don't like either?
No.
Okay, but
Did you say no?
to
or
be
did you say
fair
I
no?
said
or
no.
Oh,
not,
you
to
said
be
no?
fair, I eat like 5 things. I eat like a child. I am so particular with food.
Mac and cheese,
No,
eggs.
not even that. No. And so I'm just like, no, I'm not here for the food. I'm here for the party.
Oh,
but-
I gotta ask this too. When it comes to homeschooling, what about do your kids? It's not like a curriculum or anything in any of the homeschooling programs, but cooking. Are they like actively involved since they're with you all the time?
I have some of my kids cook.
Okay.
Some don't.
Okay. Meaning they like to and some don't like to.
Yeah, like
kind of
my
thing?
oldest daughter that I brought with me.
Mhm.
She loves to cook and experiment.
Okay.
And she loves to eat healthy though. She doesn't touch sugar.
Some like
so
to
she's
cook.
always recreating foods that she used to like in a healthy manner, and she's always experimenting,
Sweet.
looking it up, and wants to go to the grocery store every day and come home and create these meals.
Sounds like a cookbook in the making.
So that's fun. My other daughter is like into baking. She wants to make all the
So
desserts.
she likes to bake all the things with sugar in it.
So
The other one eats.
I make my kids. I have from an early age. I make them do everything.
Yeah.
That sounds worse than it is, but 4 of them, close in age. You know what this is like. Things add up. I don't like clutter, and of course, there's a certain amount of clutter with homeschool. But I would just remember when they were younger, and I said, "Okay, I'm only keeping the amount of toys I'm willing to clean up." Because they're still learning to clean up, and I don't want this stress on me.
Wow.
And so then, as soon as they were able, I was
You're
teaching
so
them.
nice.
You know,
I did this when I started stepping on them and they were not being picked up.
The Legos.
They ended up in a bag and they got to donate them.
Yeah.
So
So, I'm
Where
not
do
a
they donate them
minimalist,
to?
but I just
the spare
like,
bedroom.
No.
the attic. They're
was
getting them for Christmas this year.
Usually it was their younger, not siblings, but like cousins,
Regifting.
and, you know. And then they would go over to their house and be like, "That's my toy." Probably wasn't a good plan. I didn't think it all the way through.
somehow was like
That's
came
kind
back
of my
home.
point. That was kind of my point.
They're like taking empty backpacks with them over there, and then they come back home and it's just all their
All of it's
found
back.
toys. It's just all that work. So yeah, no, I
But
started
but
chores
you know what?
from
But they
very early
hid
age.
all the toys they wanted to keep.
Oh, they're smart kids.
I should say they put them away where, you know, yeah. So anyway, it worked.
Yeah.
They figured it out.
So that's like the payoff, you know, you put in all this time and babies and toddlers, and now they're teenagers, and it's like, no, you clean that. You vacuum that.
Oh yeah.
You
I
do my laundry.
we sometimes, you know, I watch, you know, you can fall into this, you know, screen here and, you know, play YouTubes or whatever, TikTok or whatever. My kids, they see things, especially when there's like adults that are just doing the most bizarre, insane things. They're just like, that doesn't make any sense, Dad. I was like, yep. But people out, you know, it's more how things make you feel versus whether it's really thought through, I guess, you know. You know, the kind of for me before like all this LGBTQ was being pushed and all that, before that the big thing was YOLO. You know, it's like you only live once. YOLO, right? And in Spanish we just call it desmadre because it's just like that's basically chaos. You're gonna do everything. You know, as if it was like the last month or whatever you were gonna live, and you're just gonna live life to the fullest. And you know, sounds great, you know, but it's not practical, right? And I think sometimes, like today, when we're going back to this whole the Beverly Center drag show, I mean, and you know, I have a
Did you
brother.
guys watch it?
I have a brother who was an older brother. Yeah. Oh yeah, we walked by, we saw it. Yeah, we're like, all right, you know. And my daughter was just like, "Dad, man, like, that guy overdid it with the stilettos." I was like, "Is it the stilettos?
Those are hard to walk in.
I know.
Right? Not the dress, Not the star tattoos he had along his chest.
And let me guess, it was the youngest one.
Both of them. The youngest one said it. Yes, she's the one that said it.
I know.
It's funny. She's got a sense of humor.
That was my point.
I'm dying. I'm laughing
There's
so
some
hard.
of my funny girls right behind.
So they're just like, that was, and then my other daughter, the older one, is just like, he didn't even shave, Dad. That's disgusting. It's like, yeah, they're figuring it out.
I love that. That's
No, I'm just, it's not. It's just, for them, and like you said earlier, it's like right away they went into transgender type thing, and I was just like, no. And I want clarify what's actually happening, going on, and everybody was having a good time.
Well, but you were talking about they have an uncle, and then I cut you off.
Oh yeah, I have an older brother who was he no longer is, but he was super engaged in the drag early years, where it's like you walked out in the street, you probably got beat up. Mm-hmm. He probably did. I don't know. I mean, I was too young. I was, I didn't really know. I knew he dressed in dresses as a kid. I was just like,
he's odd.
My brother's special. He made dresses too. He made them. Mm-hmm. He had so much clutter because he was like, his room was his wardrobe thing. And they did like performances and things like that. He's
But here's the thing. I mean.
But hold on. What's crazy about it is he's a conservative. Right? He's a conservative.
The look on your face, Camille.
I feel like we were all just stunned into silence. We don't.
No, I'm just saying.
Does not
I'm just saying that it doesn't.
But it does.
But it does.
And I'll tell you what this is the point I was going to bring up, is that there's nothing wrong with the drag shows. There's nothing wrong with men that want to dress as women and do these shows.
If you're doing it,
but if you're doing it for adults,
kids.
If you're doing it at the Queen Mary,
for adults, and you're doing it,
there was that show on Ventura Boulevard, the Queen Mary. Yeah. But if you're doing it at a 5-year-old kindergarten class,
then it's a problem. And so this is the issue that I'm having with it, is that people get to still be people. It doesn't matter what you do or who you do it with or what bedroom you're in with it and how many of your people are in it. They all need to be consenting adults. And that's the conversation that we're not having.
Right.
The conversation isn't what you're doing in your bedroom with who and how many. It's, are you all consenting adults? And it's the consenting adults that's the problem. When you start having drag shows in the middle of a public area where you're going to have kids, now there's a problem. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. His brother doing drag, that should have been celebrated because that's who he is. And the fact that he's a conservative and he likes to be in drag or whatever he was doing, we've got such an ideal that, if they're in drag, they can't be conservative kind of thing. And I think that that's something that we're not.
We even have the log cabin Republicans.
They're they're huge. And I'm sure a lot of them do drag too.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is like, things have gone into this, I don't know.
All or nothing.
All or nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the YOLO.
All or nothing, the YOLO. And you just gotta respect my YOLO.
But they don't even want to be accepted. Well, they want to be accepted, but they didn't end it there. It's put me on a pedestal, worship me, make this. You need to address my identity and do all the things that I want. Appease me.
You have to call me they. But I have no idea you're a they.
Right.
Put a name tag on it.
Right. And just, I think most of us are just trying to, that's the thing with me, is I just want to live my life. I want to wake up and homeschool my kids without a fight.
Every 4 hours, my stomach starts growling. I'm hungry. So I'm going to keep it basic. is this serving me well? Whatever it is I'm doing.
Speaking about hunger, in the last minute that we have, we want to make the announcement that June 25th, that's Sunday at 4 o'clock, we're having our Menudo Cook-Off. And that's going to be at the Mayflower Club in North Hollywood.
So anybody can bring menudo?
Well, we're having two categories. We're having commercial, so we're inviting restaurants to bring their samples, and then we'll also have homemade. And so I wanted to check with you, see if your mother would like to be a judge. We already
maybe she wants to be the cook.
We already have. No, it's a lot of work making menudo at home, believe me. And,
I mean, she'd do it, but
But we have Richard Alicon's ex-wife is going to be one of the judges. And so Flora, and so I'm really excited because it's a nonpartisan event.
Are we going to have some mariachi? What's going on?
I would say yes. Let's do it. Let's go the whole enchilada
or some banda.
I like enchiladas.
Maybe not the banda.
Enchiladas. There you go.
David's like, I don't need that noise.
All right, and lastly, as the music comes up, May 31st at the Woodland Hills Country Club. our club. We're joined with the CRA and 2 Republican women's groups, and we're having an evening at the Woodland Hills Country Club. Go to the website. There's only a couple of seats left.
It's at 5:30.
5 o'clock check-in, but the show starts at 5:30. Dinner. Jennifer Horn is going to be the MC. Jack Guerrero is going to be speaking along with Sean Steele. So we're going to have a great evening.
Very nice.
Thank you, everyone.
And that's David and Jeffy on the Los Angeles Hispanic Republican Club radio show with the Don Carlos segment. Thank you, Camille, for coming in.
Thank you for
John
having me.
Knox and
Thank you,
Matt
Sal.
Mamone and
Thank you,
Sal,
Jennifer.
Ryan, Dominic for showing up. And you guys, will catch you next Saturday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Don't be late.
Yep.